Connolly. I started making videos for my students, and this one is for them as well, but I wanted to make sure I shared with as many students as possible so we could keep you learning during this crazy time. If you have any questions or topics you want me to cover, connollymathathome@gmail.com. So let's get started. Today for math time, we are going to think about multiplying a mixed number times a whole number. Okay, so in the video that I made yesterday with multiplying a fraction by a whole number, we talked about that part of it. We're going to build on that. We're going to use what we learned yesterday and we're going to add it to what we're doing today. So as a quick reminder, as always, let's think about whole numbers first, because whatever we do with whole numbers, we can apply to fractions. Things change a little bit, but we want to use what we know about whole numbers to help us with fractions. So here we go. As a reminder, if we are doing something like 3 times 60, this multiplication symbol stands for groups of. Okay, so we can read this. Does that look like an F? We can read this as 3 times 60, or we can read this as 3 groups of 60. Okay, and yesterday we used what we call a fraction bar representation, and we drew a long bar, rectangular representation here, to represent one whole. Okay, so let's think about this. I am walking 60 kilometers, and I'm going to do that 3 times. Okay, so let's say we have a walking path that is 60 kilometers long. That's pretty long, but I like walking. So anyways, so there's 60 kilometers long. That is the whole entire path. Okay, so I'm going to walk the path one whole time. So this bar here represents the whole path, which is 60 kilometers long. I'm going to do that 3 times. So I have another whole path that's 60 miles long, or 60 kilometers long, and then I have another path that's 60 kilometers long. So let's say I walked it 3 separate days, because doing that all in one day is a little excessive. So anyways, 3 groups of 60 kilometers. I see 60 plus 60 plus 60. I walked the entire path each day, so I know that I have 180 kilometers that I walked. Okay, so that's how we multiply with whole numbers. We think about this as 3 groups of 60. The same thing is, we're going to use this same idea when we're thinking about multiplying by mixed numbers. Okay, so let's get started. So what do I mean by a mixed number? A mixed number is when we have a whole number and a fraction that makes a mixed number. Okay, so an example of a mixed number is 2 wholes and 1/2. So you see the whole number and the fraction, we put them together for a total amount of 2.5. Okay, so what happens if I'm on this bike path that's walking path, sorry. I'm on this walking path that's 60 kilometers long, and I'm going to do that path 2.5 times. So I'm going to have 2.5 groups of 60. So let's bring out that fraction bar representation again. We have one whole path that is 60 kilometers. I did it 1 time so far. I have another path that's 60 kilometers. This represents my 2 full times that I did the 60 kilometer path. So 1 whole time, 2 whole times. Then, the next time I do it, I only go halfway, 2.5 groups of 60. So, what we have to think about now, and I want to make these the same size, is what is half of 60? So, in the previous video, we learned that when we're thinking about a half, we would split our fraction bar into 2 equal pieces. Okay? We know that this whole bar right now, the whole path, right now we're keeping track of what is the whole, it's 60 kilometers. The whole path is 60. So if I split it into 2 equal parts, how much is each part worth? Well, we use what we know, and you can think about 60 divided by 2 is what? Or you can think about 2 groups of what makes 60. sure at home you're shouting 30, 30. And hopefully in the classroom you raise your hand, but you can shout it out right now. So we have each half is worth 30 kilometers. So did we go both of those halves that next time we went? We did 1, 2, and just 1 half, right? So we want to make sure that we know that we're only including this half here. Okay, so let's think about how far did we go. First, we did 60 kilometers. Okay, then we did 60 kilometers for our second time. 2 groups of 60 kilometers, and then for our next lap, we didn't go all the way, we just went half of the way on this walking path. We only went 30 kilometers. So when we think about how far did we go, we did 60 plus 60 plus 30, which is 150 kilometers. And something happened today that's different than yesterday, okay? Yesterday, we were thinking about what happens when we multiply by a number less than 1 whole, what happens to the product. And today, as you can see, this number is greater than a whole. How do we think about this product here compared to this factor? Is this greater than or less than this factor? This is just something I want you thinking about. Does it happen every single time? And then it'll be the next video, and we'll think about what's happening when we multiply by a number greater than a whole and a number less than a whole. Okay? So, what if you didn't want to draw these fraction bar representations for the wholes? Well, let me show you what you could think about. When you're multiplying whole numbers, sometimes you keep one number whole and you split up the other number. So we can do that with mixed numbers. So one thing that you might want to do is you might want to start with 2 groups of 60. And that's 120. You see that I'm keeping 60 whole. Okay? I've multiplied 2 groups of 60 so far. That's this part here. I've taken care of that. Okay? What's left to multiply? Well, after I did 2 groups of 60 kilometers, then I did another round of half of 60 kilometers. Okay, so I'm sure this is looking quite familiar to you if you like to keep one number whole when you're multiplying whole numbers. So then when we think of what is 1/2 of, remember that stands for of, 60, 1/2 of 60, as you know, is 30, and you can use your fraction bars this whole time. And when we combine the 120, our subproducts, with 30, we get 150 kilometers. So let's take a look at this strategy real quick, and I really want you to understand it because it's going to help you so much. We kept 60 whole. We did not break it up. Okay? What we did break up was 2 1/2. And how did we do that? We took out the whole number and we multiplied 2 groups of 60. Then I knew that I still had to go halfway around this walking path again. So then I took the 1/2 that I hadn't multiplied yet, and I did 1/2 of 60 is 30. And then I combined the subproducts. So for the next few examples, I'm going to be showing you with keeping one number whole. I'll also show you on the fraction bar representation, and then I want you trying it at home. Okay? So while I erase this board, I want you to be making some predictions. Okay? What is going to happen if we multiply, let's do 3 2/3 of 120. Okay? And what I want you to be predicting while I'm getting going here is, will our product be greater than or less than 120? If we do 3 2/3 groups of 120, will we have, let's do biking this time, will we have biked more than 120 kilometers, or will we have biked less than 120 kilometers? So I want you thinking about that. Okay, so let's think about keeping one number whole. We're gonna keep 120 whole, okay? And we're gonna think about if we did 3 whole, if we did this bike path 3 whole times, 120 kilometers, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3. So we have, you can clearly see we have 3 groups of 120, okay? So I am going to represent that with multiplication. 3 groups of 120 is 360 kilometers, okay? So I did go 3 groups of 120, but is that all that I did? I did 2/3 of 120 next. Okay, so after I did the bike path 1 time, I did the bike path a 2nd time, I did the bike path a 3rd time. I never finished the 4th time all the way through. Is that, I'm trying to make equal pieces here. I only went 2/3 of the way. And you remember from the last video that if I go 2/3 of the way, that I can split my fraction bar into 3 equal pieces. The whole thing has to equal 120, so I have to figure out what each equal part is, okay? And I go over this in depth in the last video, so make sure you watch that and then come back to this one if you're confused, because I'm gonna speed up a little bit to show us how to do mixed numbers. So I know I have 3 equal pieces. I know these 3 equal pieces have to be the same as this whole and this whole and this whole. So I know that when I add them up, it has to equal 120. So I say to myself, 3 times what is 120? And I know that that's 40. Okay? Then I say to myself, well, I didn't go all 3/3. I just went 2/3 of the way next. So I'm going to circle those 2/3. And I know that 2/3 of 120 is these 2 pieces combined. So 80 kilometers. Okay, so let's write it down like we would if we were keeping one number whole. So 2/3 of 120 means that I went 80 more kilometers. And then, just like with whole numbers, if you keep one number whole and break up the other one into place value or 2 other ways, you're going to add your subproducts. Okay? So we add these up. Sorry, that would have been there. And we get 440 kilometers. So let's look at this product. And I'm going to make a video just for this, but I want you thinking. Is our product greater than this factor? And you notice it is, but I'm thinking why? Because yesterday, with a fraction, it was less than this product. And today, we still see a fraction, it's part of a mixed number, but our product is greater. So I'm wondering why that happens. Okay, let's do one more example about multiplying this mixed number by a whole number, and then I'm going to give you some for you to try on your own. All right, so here we go. This time we're going to think about 4 4/5 times 200. Okay, so let's say that I'm running 200 meters and I do that 4 4/5 times. So what is 4 4/5 groups of 200? So I'm on a mini track, it's 200 meters long. I'm not going to draw all 4 holes. Right now I'm just going to show you first how we would break this up keeping one number whole. So if I was going to keep 200 whole, first I would multiply it by the 4 whole times that I did 200 meters. 4 groups of 200. And as you know, that's 800. So, oh, sorry. So then I know I've multiplied 4 groups of 200. I also went 4/5 of the way around this miniature track. So I did 4/5 of 200 after I did my 4 laps. So next I'm going to take 4/5 groups of 200. Do you see the 4 and 4/5 in this strategy? I hope so. I kept 200 whole. I'm showing that I did the 4 full laps, 4/5 of the next one, and now I have to find out what is 4/5 of 200. So you could draw the 4 whole fraction bars if you need to, okay? Or you can take out the whole number and do the whole number times the whole number, and then draw your fraction bar for 4/5 of 200. So that's what I'm going to show here, okay? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 equal parts. I know that this whole track has to equal 200 meters, okay? 200. And I need to figure out, if I split 200 into 5 equal parts, how much is each part, okay? So I ask myself, 5 times what gets me to 200? Or you can think about 200 divided by 5. All right? So when I'm saying I know that 5 times 20 gets me to 100, so I'm going to say then 5 times 40 must get me to 200. There's a lot of ways to get at this, so whichever way works for you is fine. So I'm going to say each piece is worth 40, and then of course, after I do that, I double check to make sure I definitely equal 200. So 40, 80, 120, 160, 200. Okay, so I know that I have made my fraction bar equal the whole track, which was 200. And I split it into 5 equal parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because that's what the information this fraction is giving me. And I know that I went 4/5 of the way. So I'm going to circle my 4 out of 5 equal parts, and I'm going to figure out what is the distance if I've gone 4/5 of the way. 40, 80, 120, 160. Okay, so I see that I have gone 160 more meters. I'm going to add that to the 800 meters I already did. And I have gone 960 meters. Okay, so here's the steps that you are going to be taking while you are multiplying a mixed number by a whole number. Okay, you are going to be thinking about these fraction bar representations and what each fraction bar represents. You're going to have to consider what is the whole. Pretend it's a race. It can be a 1,000-mile race if you want it to be. Okay, just keep a story problem context with you. All right, so you are going to multiply your whole number times the whole number, okay? If you need to draw 4 fraction bars of 200 and count them up, that is fine. Start building your understanding of what's going on. Then you're going to take the fractional part of the mixed number and multiply it by the whole number. And this is where you're definitely going to need that fraction bar representation, okay? So just like yesterday's video, you're going to split it into equal parts. You're going to take as many equal parts as you need, keeping in mind that this whole thing needs to equal the whole race. Then you're going to combine your subproducts. And then finally, you're going to think about this. Is my product greater than, oops, that's not a comma. Is my product greater than or less than this factor? You can see that 960 is greater than 200. Why is that happening today, even though we have this fractional parts that we're multiplying by? But how come when we have the mixed number, we get a product that's greater than this factor, and yesterday we got a product that was less than this factor when it was just a fraction less than a whole? That's something we're going to have to discover together. Okay, so let me give you the problems that you're going to practice on your own. If you're at home, if you're in my class, you're doing the problems that I've given to you, which are probably similar. Okay, so mixed number by whole number. First, I want you to think about 2 1/2 groups of 400. So we have a 400-meter race, or 400-meter track. I went around it 2.5 times. How many meters did I go? So 2.5 groups of 400. Okay, let's do 3 and 2 fifths groups of, let's do 400 again. I like to see what happens here. So 3 and 2 fifths groups of 400. So then we have this 400-meter track. I went around it 3 and 2 fifths times. How many meters did I go total? And then finally, let's do 5 and 3/4 groups of 400. Okay, so we'll make it easy for you to write down in your notebook from the screen. You use the fraction part representation when you're doing the fractional parts. Make sure you also multiply the whole number by the whole number, then the fraction by the whole number, and then you're combining the subproducts. As always, there's several other ways to get at this problem and to solve, but this is the one I want you practicing today, okay? And we'll learn more in the future, all right? Bye.